Good morning. This morning we're going to make a keychain. I've had this request for this design quite a bit, so I've got all the supplies here. I've got a pretty long piece of string because I'm gonna, or wire because I'm gonna double string it. I've got two 6mm split rings, or no, not split rings, two 6mm rings. One for my pendant and one to attach to my actual key ring. I've got some spacers. I've got two wire guards, and I've got some crimp tubes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the end of our wire and we're going to put a crimp tube on the wire. And then we're going to run the wire through our wire guard. Now, at this point, I'm going to go on and slide my 6mm ring inside of my wire guard. Okay, put that in there like that. Now I'm going to bring this wire all the way down. Whew, it wants to curl on me, till my ends are even. And I'm going to crimp the ends of my wire guard. And I'm also going to pull this together just a little bit to keep my ring in place. Now I'm going to run both wires through the crimp tube. And I'm going to use my crimp pliers to crimp it. Okay, so this is the setup that we have at the moment. Okay, so now I'm going to add a spacer bead on both wires. And I'm going to go spacer bead. My wire is curling on me here. Bead, spacer, bead, spacer, bead, and I'm going to keep doing this until I'm done. I chose to put 5 beads on this. That's a good size for me. I've done this, I did this 3 years ago for a bunch of college students, and I did the double wire like this, and their keychains are still working. They were for their dorm keys. They haven't come apart yet, so I think this is probably a pretty sturdy method. Through there. Now after I do this last bead, I'm going to pull it tight, and I'm going to go on and add a crimp tube because I want to hold these in place, and I don't want them moving while I try to finish off the end. And if I do my crimp tube right, it'll slide right inside of that bead. I'm going to crimp that, and that's just to hold this, okay? Now, we are ready for our end piece. Okay, I'm going to trim off the extra wire just so I have enough to work with. I'm giving myself about 5 inches here. I'm going to slide a spacer bead on. Over both wires. I'm going to slide a crimp tube on. Over both wires. And now I'm going to put both wires through my wire guard. I've got a bent end here, so I'm going to trim that. I'm going to make sure my ends are really nice and smooth, since I'm going to be putting both of these through the crimp tube, through the wire guard. Okay, I'm going to go through there. We're going to come back around and go through the other side. With both wires. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and I'm going to go on and slide this ring into the space and pull it down tight. Okay. I'm going to go on and crimp the ends here. And then a little bit tighter. 2. And I'm going to pull this together just a little bit so that my ring doesn't come out. Okay. And I'm going to slide these through the crimp tube, both of them. Oh, he wants to loop on me here. Wire. Alright, we got them through there. Now I'm going to take and go through my spacer bead. As you can see, my wires are getting a little bit tired of being worked with here. I'm going to go through my spacer bead. And at this point, you can just do this with one wire. You don't have to do it with both. If you can do it with both, that's great. But our spacer bead's getting a little bit tight here. Okay. And there he is. I'm going to pull that wire out. Okay, so I've run them both back down through my spacer bead. Now that was challenging. And I'm going to come back through the crimp tube, if at all possible. Let me pull it down a little bit. Now this is a lot of wire in that crimp tube. But that's okay, because the more wire I've got in there, the better it's going to hold it. And at this point, if you want, you can add a drop of Loctite or E6000 or something to that crimp tube. I'm going to pull this tight, and then I'm going to crimp it. And I'm going to trim these off. Okay. Now, at this point, I can put my big key ring on one end, and I can put my pendant on the other. So I'm going to use my my split ring pliers here, and I'm going to open this, and I'm going to slide this on the end, and then I will go get my keys, my big keychain, and I will put my big ring that has my keys on this end.